Hello everybody, let's exit to port. It is currently the 23rd of July, 12:53 Central European summertime. It is my niece's birthday today, actually, and she turns 14 today. Time flies, and I'm an old fart suddenly. Speaking of old farts, you were replaced last time, Grumbles. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, yeah, I was very selfish. I got sick and was laid up in bed most of the time for a couple of days. So yeah, sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, no. It is a rule that we do have around here. Is real life always comes first, and if you're sick, you're sick. That's always take care of yourself first. Isn't that what they say on airplanes? Take care of yourself first, and then you can help others.
I think that's pretty much airplanes, cruise ships, you name it. We can check with Chegg.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
And cruise planes also.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the more astute and, well, maybe not even the more astute, for those of you watching, why are you watching a podcast first and foremost? For those of you watching on YouTube, you might notice there's a slight change in how things look. That ever so slight, not big. It's just a tiny visual element to show a bit more of who's speaking and make it more of a conversation rather than just being blips on the internet. I do enough of that normally. Speaking of being blips on the internet, patreon.com/exit-to-port is a wonderful place where you can pledge to support the podcast for $2 a month. That's before tax, though, sadly. But before we rant too much about taxes and such, $2 a month, you can support the podcast, and we have officially hit the numbers to be able to pay for our first month. So thank you so much for that to Mari and FionnMacCorvus for doing that. That is incredibly nice of you. They, of good course, yes, indeed, good vibes. They, of course, get the added bonus of being guaranteed to get their question in, and even some potential upcoming Patreon exclusives. We are looking at making a one-shot or maybe a short campaign with some of the Know Your Role elements that have been throughout the episodes that are going to be for the people on Patreon. And I imagine we can do it one of two ways. Either we play together with people on Patreon, or we get a few creators together and we create a bit of a fun episode for a Patreon exclusive. We'll have to see how we do that. But yes.
One additional addendum to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should consider having a silly soundbite for that. I mean, a very professional one. Something like,
Wait. I think I know this. I know. So we're going to have to play around with reverb and then some echo there. Let me see here. How effects. Okay, the echo. Where's the echo? We need a multi-tap, and we need to do this. And I think exclusive. I have no idea how that sounded, but something like that.
Yeah.
Let me actually listen back to myself here. Exclusive. No, that's not the right echo. Oh, this is going to confuse some people.
I think it needs more strumming your lips with your finger like I did it.
Exclusive.
There you go.
Oh, the ping pong. Oh yeah. Let's. Whoa.
This is just the next 3 hours of the podcast.
Exclusive.
Tiger
Yeah,
and
you know.
Grumbles. The episode's just called Buttons. We get completely off track.
Us off track
I know,
would
right?
never
As if there was a
happen.
track to begin with. Gotcha.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Like I said, it is late July. It is hot as all balls here in northern Norway. And probably not any better down on the continent.
No, it's horrible. Make it go away.
Well, maybe lower itself, not fully go away. I want to point that out. As such, because it is the season it is, expect or don't fret if there's any weird noises like construction or lawn mowing or so on going on. I want to point that out. It is that season, and especially here in Europe, we need to use it when we have it available. So that's out of the way. And since last time, Stats is out of the way. Although we do love Stats. Thank you, Stats, once again for stepping in last time.
Thanks, Stats.
And we are once again our full human self. And speaking of that, Once Human, we've recently played that.
Mm-hmm.
I tested it out quite extensively. I tested it out in the alpha. I tested it out in the early beta. And now when they came to the so-called full release, I tested it out again. My experience got worse and worse for every single iteration. And I started with a game that felt cool and didn't tax too much on my system, but I'm now playing a game where turning around loads in massive chunks of data over the network to me and actually completely swamps my network to such a degree that I couldn't hear people on Discord that I were playing with.
That's weird.
And I tried doing it without the stream going, because the streaming PC would necessarily be going through the same network out into the world. No change. No change. And I see from both Co and others and other people with much better PCs than me, they're also having the same insane stutters. It's a game I want to like, but it's making it very difficult for me to enjoy it. I will give it another fair shake, will be said. What's your experience with Once Human?
It's firstly like, I'm not down with all the necessarily nuanced elements of all these different categories and genres, but like sort of billed as MMO or multiplayer, but doesn't feel so much multiplayer, and it suffers a similar fate to a lot of those games where it becomes a little bit difficult to keep up with everybody and keep everyone in a group and working towards the same goal. You have to have a group that's like really tight-knit and really working actively to stay together and do stuff together. Otherwise it quickly like turns into what feels like a single player game. It's got a interesting story. It's got really fun artwork, and animation design and things like that are really, really top notch, especially for a free to play game. Very good. But it's jack of all trades, master of none as well, trying to be everything or cover like a lot of bases. With building, survival, crafting, zombies equivalent kind of thing, MMO, bit of single player story, RPG. So for me, the long and the short of it was, I didn't really ever feel like I got fully to grips with like, what even is this game? What's it, what is it trying to be? What's it setting its stall out for?
Yeah.
And I thought that there are things like some of the building stuff was pretty cool, but it was like locked behind, you had to be a certain area getting certain resources and that to progress, and I don't like games that kind of lock me into areas and stuff. And I think overall I think it could have made a really, really fascinating single player game, or like a co-op small team go in, do things, clear it. But because it's MMO, so it's not a criticism of it as itself. I'm describing things that like appeal or to me more or less. And it's kind of a dire, like everything's apocalyptic world. Which makes sense with the story, but because it's an MMO and there's so many people playing it, you can never like actually fully clear an area, for example, because you clear an area and then like everything's got to spawn back in, because otherwise there's nothing to do for the next 5 people that come in and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of felt to me like there was almost no respite from the darkness within that world, and I didn't feel like I was like clearing areas or achieving anything. And the other thing is, it felt very easy, like deliberately programmed to be like very easy, and you just go to the next thing and the next thing. So there was no real challenge there, and I'm not like what I would consider a good video game player. Like, I have a lot of fun with video games and do my style and my way of doing things, but I'm not a classic, win a video game, grind all the things out, that kind of thing. So I found it very easy to play, and I think that's just part of their logic of like, well, let's make sure people can get into this and keep coming back and feel like they've achieved something. But again, it never felt like, it was like, oh great, I got this thing, now I've got to go somewhere else and pick up this other random, like a bottle of glue or whatever. And I don't know, after 2 days of playing it, I was like, okay, I've seen this one now.
Yeah.
There didn't feel like there was anything else to come or be done, or
for a
there
game,
was no purpose.
For a game that tries to throw so many things at us, I think that's where it kind of falls short. It inevitably kind of turns into one of those, oh gods, where what string do I pick up and try to string in now? Like, wait, where do I start the next time I log on? Do I go looking for materials? Do I push the story? Do I craft stuff? Like, and so on and so forth. And looking at all the different like things that you could upgrade and get new materials and so on, where it's shoving in recalibration of the stuff you've made, but ultimately, if you make something better, that's going to be better than what you fully recalibrated. Meaning you have all these different steps on, and that's just, for instance, on the weapons, that it's biting off too much, and it's ending up being, I don't know. It's feeling like, for the lack of a better term, any big game out there that I could compare this to, like, let's say The Division 2, which has been out for years, they have a lot of these things, but they have been introduced over the course of many, many years, not everything at once at launch. And it's just kind of insane to me, because it's so overwhelming stepping into a game that feels like it is potentially a single player game, but behaves like a multiplayer game, but it's a multiplayer game that is a social group, and yet it's also an MMO, and that's not even covering the whole wipe mechanic. Like, working hard to put up the house and everything, only for it to be wiped at some point is like, okay, that's fun. What's my incentive to stay? What's my incentive to try to do any sort of progress? There isn't one for me. So yeah, I like the setting. I like how the world looks. I love the gunplay. The gunplay is really good for a game that type. Gunplay is really good. It's impressive even, but it's yeah, no, I think it's kicking itself in the shin with how it's trying to do stuff. So yeah.
It's definitely an interesting one. One thing that I found really intriguing, and I don't know enough, sadly, about psychology in video games and all that kind of thing. But one of the things I found quite fascinating is how many people it's just grabbed a hold of, and they're like getting something from it, hopefully enjoyment, and not just like addiction mechanics or whatever. But yeah, I found that really fascinating, and if I had time and inclination, it'd be interesting to look into that. But I won't have time to do it, or necessarily the brain power. But it's definitely an interesting eye opener for me, in like how, because I don't know, I haven't really understood. I guess I got kind of my own version of game addictions or whatever, but I don't get addicted to those same kind of MMO repeat loop things or whatever, and certainly not when things like force me to go to different areas, and every time I feel forced to do something, I'm like, oh, okay, you're losing my interest sort of slowly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does intrigue me how people I know, some people I know and have gotten so deeply into it, which again, there's no criticism. I'm just curious, like how, I guess that certain things that put me off, I guess, don't put other people off to the same degree, But yeah, interesting.
I will say on the MMO aspect that I've played a fair few of MMOs, and the one that I always keep comparing other MMOs to is World of Warcraft, for a natural reason. It's still around because they've done good work. But when I played World of Warcraft, it was the social aspect of it that made me come back. But MMOs these days, I mean, when I started up World of Warcraft again with Classic, when that came back, there was a reason why there was a guild that was named "We Have Jobs Now," and the thing is, the different zones didn't feel distinct enough for me in Once Human. In World of Warcraft, it was very clear that I was coming into a new zone. It had its own aesthetic, its own feel, its own quests. It wasn't just another town in a nondescript American landscape with a church and 3 goats and whatever non-Euclidean horror that was popping up, so World of Warcraft did things right. It didn't force you to go to a new place, but if you wanted to kind of continue and get better XP, you would have to go, but it gave you options of where you could go. Like, you have now hit level 30, these are the recommended zones for you now, because they kind of evolve around level 30-ish. So, pick your own adventure. Once Human didn't feel like that for me. I settled on a river north of Thruwville, I think it's called. And then I went, I'm going to swim across the river just to have a look. Suddenly, there's a giant alligator, level 28, while I'm level 9, chasing me around a tree while I'm emptying my revolver into it about 70 times before it actually dies. Will say, felt nice to be able to defend myself. Not so nice that the place looks exactly the same and suddenly I'm being chased by something that will absolutely whoop me. And I mean, whoop me. That's, there you go. So yeah, Once Human. I'll give it another fair shake at some point, but I think only once will be enough. That's pretty good. If only I'm gonna shut up.
So you'll say that game could be once and done?
Hey, yep. But something that isn't once and done, but actually keeps repeating, is the Horde Nights in 7 Days to Die, and you've had some experience with that recently.
Yeah, I have indeed. Yeah, we played on a role-playing server hosted by Who's Gaming Now, aka Damien, and he's I'm helping with some funding towards running that up again. So we can do that. And he's been programming some of his own mods specifically for to slow progression down so that you don't get the thing of like, you know, the 5 people who know the game really well rush forward and have 4x4 trucks and nuclear missiles, and everyone else is running around with a bow and some sticks.
Yeah.
Which would help because we obviously want the focus to be role playing and not playing the game as such, but you need a balance of both in that kind of setting. So yeah, it's been good fun. But I've also been doing my single player. I was trying to do a series of like, here's a brand new player, Scrub, who does the Blood Moons. And I did Blood Moon 1 and Blood Moon 2, and that went fine. Number 1, I died. Number 2, I got better and didn't die, although only by the skin of my teeth. And number 3, I did die once, and then the game bugged out and didn't load any more zombies in until I re-logged out of the game back in again, which is just a feature, shall we say, that I wasn't aware of. So that can happen sometimes. So it kind of ruined the recording because like the middle of it's just like nothing going on for an hour or so of in-game time. Like talking to myself like, maybe there'll be some more zombies, before I thought
45.
maybe I should relog at this point. And I just felt like the continuity wasn't there. I might still make a video of it, we'll see. But yeah, it's been fun. And then since then I did a little bit of live stream on that solo play as well, and it's got good community engagement. And I turned the Blood Moon thing off because having that time pressure in the back of your mind all the time when you want to just go adventuring and all this kind of thing, it's like, if you're just playing on your own instance, what's the point of putting yourself under stress, right? So I did that just so that I can carry on learning the game. And then, you know, when I feel I've had time to build a horde base or whatever they call it, see how it goes. I'm sure it'll be hilarious, but it's quite a fun game. I didn't play any of it yesterday on my day off because I don't know. I don't need to immerse myself in these dreary post-apocalyptic worlds too often. You know, there's a limit to where it starts bringing me down a little bit, and I need to back off. So I decided not to play any yesterday, even though I kind of feel the itch of wanting to do something. But I'm like, no, you don't need zombies rushing at your face for a day. Have a break. But yeah, 7 days. I think they've done. I mean, I'd never played it before the 1.0 release. It goes fully live in 2 more days' time from recording, 25th of July. Also for consoles as well, I believe. And I just think they've done a really good job. They've got a good game there. I know there's differences of opinion in the community that know it, long-standing supporters and all the rest of it. Some people are a bit miffed because they've raised the price and they're like, well, it's only just going to the next iteration. What's the big deal? But I think there's quite a lot going on, both visually and some stuff under the hood as well. And will it be perfect and all the rest of it? No, but has it got a foundation to then build going forward? I think it's, you know, as an observer who's only stepped into it recently, it looks like, you know, a good fun game that you can still get at a good price now if you get it in advance and then get the free upgrade kind of thing. And if you've been a long-term supporter of it, I don't know why you would complain about it, you know, getting a bit of a revamp and getting some nice refreshed graphics and continue to be worked on. I mean, if they bring more money in and continue supporting and developing the product they've been working on for the last 10 years or so, why would you be unhappy about that?
Yeah, no, they've like, having watched some other content creators that I've been following for a long time play this and for such a long time too, and how many times they've been able to kind of reset, go back, introduce one other element to how they want to do things, and suddenly have a completely new season of stuff to do. It says something about the replayability of the game. And it also says something about the amount of good work that the devs have put in for that. So yeah, no, it's an impressive piece of kit they have, and very much something that I think more people enjoy because it's moddable. It's you have the option of playing single player, like you said. You have the option of playing on a dedicated server. It's excellent for RP.
You can do
Uh,
hosted sessions as well.
yeah, that too. That too. It's excellent for any sort of people that want to do base building. It has Twitch integration for those crazy people that stream on Twitch, and they want people to waste their channel points.
Don't mention that. I'm trying to pretend I never bring that topic up, because then chat will be like, turn that on. No.
You can also have it so people can throw bits at you for that, just so that's it. But no, it has an amazing versatility to it. I don't understand how they managed to do that, but yeah, I'm not gonna be the one to complain there. It's also set in a post-apocalyptic kind of setting, because there's of course zombies there, and once human, also being post-apocalyptic. But what is it then that we can draw into into this post-apocalyptic world that we as humans enjoy, like we as gamers enjoy so much? Because there's so many games out there that do that. What is it about this setting that is fun?
I think for me, it gives a kind of a fundamental challenge, like psychologically. There's something tingles in the brain a little bit, whether it's conscious or subconscious, of like, oh wow, everything is really broken and ruined, and it's kind of one of those where even like in real life, you kind of make that decision that comes to you, like, well, okay, what are we going to do? What do we do now? Roll sleeves up, try to survive. Probably going to need a weapon, probably going to need some food and water, probably going to need somewhere to rest at night. And I think it just kind of, I think it stems from that. It's the intrinsic kind of struggle factor of like, oh goodness, this is awkward, this is difficult. And I think that makes Oz step up, and the fact that it's digital, so we're not really in real threat. Even if psychologically it can still have an impact on people, but that's about knowing yourself and being careful about what you play and how often you play. But overall, I think that's what it is to me. And I think there's something pop culture-y, like I think we all go through different phases or our own kind of variations and iterations of thinking, that the world can be a bit zombie-ish or sheepish sometimes. The things don't, power and all that can corrupt and things can break, and we're very dependent on technology. And I think it just feeds into a lot of a mixture of things that are founded in natural experiences or evolutionary experiences for humankind, but also with this very, very unique development of like the modern tech era and kind of where we're at now as a species and our technological capabilities, and that it's I think it plays on a lot of those innate fears that we have, or those and suspicions and whatnot, with that we don't necessarily think about it. They're just there, and I think that's what those kind of games and those settings bring out, and why they're so popular or so heavily played, at least.
So when a cataclysm hits us, we should really look to gamers for survival and how to rebuild, is what we're saying.
Well, geeks and nerds that might have a that have a bit of a practical, maybe they've got an uncle who's very good with repairing cars, or because it's one thing having all that knowledge, and it's the funny thing is, I've just started rewatching the Walking Dead, which I quite enjoyed, at least the first few seasons or whatever. And there's lots of parallels. Obviously, that's been an inspiration to a lot of these games developers and writers, or whether they happened at the same time or whatever. But I doubt that a lot of those people won't have been influenced it in some way or other. And there's lots of there's this character in The Walking Dead called Eugene, who's like the uber nerd guy, who just kind of remembers everything and has these clever ideas and can develop all this, technology or devise a plan and traps and whatever. But when it comes to the practical side of it, he's just this nerd who knows a lot of info and's read a lot of books and can fiddle with a wire. But like, when someone gets in his face or he has to go out and actually fix a motorbike or whatever, it's like, not so much. So I think you'll need a healthy dose of nerds and geeks and mechanics around you, and then you've probably got a reasonable and maybe the one or the other prepper.
Then the other prepper, huh? Yeah. And
having a prepper or two around might be handy, just because they probably at least have the bunker and the foods, the dried foods. Whether they can put up with everyone else being in their bunker with them, they might have that other problem that comes up quite quickly.
Let's not worry about that until we need to jump off that bridge.
Exactly.
But speaking of preppers, how do you prep your fortress in Cataclismo?
Quite badly, but almost deliberately, or that's kind of what the game leads you into. So one of the premise of the Cataclismo, which is basically like hordes of zombie-like creatures or whatever. So like cataclysmic event happens, and there's like zombies attacking your castle, but it's like in a much more, like I could say, friendly or cartoony style kind of setting. And you basically get like Lego bricks, and you have to build a defensive position. And the game teaches you early on. I played the first hour and a half, or whatever, like the tutorial, and it teaches you that, amongst other things, there are some people who are born with this ability to harness a power. They have a power within them. That's sort of represented by sort of a pearl type thing. And this power can enable you to adjust time. In other words, something horrible can happen and you can go, oh, no, this is awful. This has all gone horribly wrong. Everyone's dying. And they can just kind of concentrate and roll back to a little bit of time, to a prior, not everything in time, but just a little bit. And then you can go, oh, okay, so the fact that I forgot to build a wall over here and the horde just came straight through that side of my base. Okay, this time I'm going to build a wall there, kind of thing. So it kind of lets you make mistakes and then gives you an opportunity to recover from them and do something smarter the next time. And I like that. It's a really cool premise. To
give a bit more meat on the bone there, Cataclismo is being given out by Hooded Horse. It is described as a need to master the dark arts of fortress building and monster repelling, where survival isn't just a skill, it's an art form etched in stone and soaked in shadows. So it's a very involved little game, kind of like they are billions. You build up a defense and you try to hold off these hordes of monsters and such, and it's looking good. It's looking good. I still haven't been able to sit down and test it, but it is very much a fun looking kind of game. It's
really worth it, Tiger. Definitely worth the time, and I wish I had more time to put into it myself, but gonna try and find a slot for it somewhere. Goodness knows how I'll do that with other things starting up that we'll talk about soon. But I really think it's got a fun sort of art style. It's got an interesting story that you can get engaged with, and just the mechanics and sort of building the defenses all the time and trying to survive and it's just fun. And it's one of the things that I refer to quite a bit in recent streams when we talk about different games and stuff. It's a little bit of a throwback in my mind, to like just old school games where things were just fun. Maybe because of technological limitations or whatever, games couldn't be so fantastical and complex from looks and processing capability and depth. But the best thing about a good game is it just has to be fun. You just have to pick it up and have a smile on your face at the end of a session, or at the beginning of a session as well. And that's what Cataclismo has. It's one of those games where you can just start smiling straight away and go, oh yeah, this is gonna be fun.
It's one of those things that make me more and more happy to be involved with the Hooded Horse. We'll touch on those a bit more a bit later on, but yeah, they are definitely bringing in some wonderful titles and bringing them to light and I can only say just how happy I am that there are developers out there that get the chance to work with Hooded Horse in this way.
Yep.
They're good people. They're good people.
I believe they're called Digital Suns, these guys. But yeah, with the developers working with Hooded Horse, it is a good combo. And when I saw this one, I was like, oh, what's this? The usual kind of like, here's a random email, or not, you know. So here's an email from Hooded Horse, and it's like, oh, they got another one. What? And I think this one somehow feels like, to me, like it's sneaking under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that people are gonna. I think it's gonna have its moment. I think there's been a lot of things that are sort of stealing the limelight a little bit at the moment. They just had the Norland release as well, so even Hooded Horse has got its own sort of competition amongst its own publishings. But I think that Cataclismo could suddenly pop up there, because when people realize how simple fun it can be, and how you feel like you're actively creating something and it has a direct consequence every single thing you're doing, I think people will suddenly realize there's a little bit of a hidden gem there.
Oh yeah, definitely. And from one hidden gem to another, apparently, for some creators, Skyrim. If only someone had told you how much fun Skyrim would be, Grumbles.
I know, right? I can't believe it. Of all the people, you know, I would have thought so many people would have told me. No, I mean, obviously, all jokes aside, it's one of those games that so many people have been hyped about it, and you know, whenever I've tentatively brought it up, people have been like, "What, you've never played Skyrim?" And then they're like, "Oh, it's so good, you got," and then it gets so hyped up that I'm like, what if I just don't like it? I'm gonna, you know, it's gonna make me feel bad for a hot minute while I'm like, oh, you know, how do I tell people that I don't, you know, it's hard enough for something like Once Human, where everyone's like, oh, are you gonna carry on playing Once Human? I'm like, no, I played it for 2 days and I'm kind of bored. They're like, oh, but there's this and there's this to do. It's like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm not interested in it. So, but Skyrim is like the opposite, where everyone's like, you got to play this. And then I've just started it. No mods, vanilla game. It's this special edition or something from 2016 that I've got. So not the newest one, but anyway, still an update. And it's just that if I was to try to say to people or show people like a world where things have been thought out about how things are going to hang together and how a world could look and feel and draw you in, and even with like somewhat dated graphics at this point, even with the update and, you know, the few little teething things here and there, with, you know, pathing of NPCs and whatever, but bearing in mind that, you know, that it was written in whatever it was, 2012, or I can't remember the exact date. Yeah, I think so, about 2012. Yeah,
that's the release, 2012,
or released then. Yeah. So it's like, you know, I have that, so I have that kind of like little buffer of like, okay, we don't worry about these things too much, but just to feel immersed, to feel like your character is involved in the world, but that there is a world going on around your character, not that your character is like the center of the universe and nothing else matters if your character doesn't deal with it or whatever. You know, you're walking along a road and some NPC farmer was out there in one of the sessions we had recently and decided it would be a great idea to charge up the hill and attack a giant spider that then murdered him. I tried to get there to save him, but he unfortunately he just had a fight with a giant wolf. So I helped him kill the giant wolf, and then I was like, okay, let's have a chat to this NPC, see what's going on. And I walked towards him, and then he's just spotted, you know, the radius or whatever of the spider, and he went charge and just ran up the hill, and I was like, dude, you're half dead because you were just fighting this wolf I saved you from. What do you know? So like, you could criticize it and say like, why would the AI go and engage another animal when it's already at low hit points or something? But that's thinking too far and too deep into something 12 years ago, you know. But
Yeah.
it kind of made. But the point is that there's just that, and there's just like bandits and different cults, and as well. It's like when I compare it to like stuff that's just come out, even, and again trying to be fair to things, but like stuff that comes out in early access or whatever. I'm like, okay, on the one hand, you're coming out with your product in early access, right? I don't really want to name other products. I suppose I can name. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus because I had fun with them. We've talked about it before, but like Bellwright as an example, where it's got NPCs and bandits and village building and stuff like that. So it's different game, but has some loose overlap. And in some of the game mechanics, it's like, I guess in a way I might be a little bit less forgiving going forwards with when I look at a game and I give my little, like, not a review but just my thoughts on something, because now I'm experiencing Skyrim. I'm saying everybody has had 12 years, right, as a developer, not to go in and go, oh, I'm going to build my copy of Skyrim, whatever like that, but everybody has had the chance to go in there directly or through other people's streams or content or whatever, and just see, oh wow, you can build this huge interconnected world, and then you can build all this random stuff that's going on, and specifically, like, cults are not the same, bandits are not all the same, villages are not the same, the different main factions, there's not 20 of them, but there's like 3 or 4 main factions, and they have their various different ways of going about the world, and there's a civil war going on in one part, but you're sort of only loosely on the periphery of it unless you choose to go deeper in that path. Then there's the whole thing with dragons, there's the whole thing with magic and mystery and necromancers and stuff. And I've been playing the game for like, I don't know actually the full number, I'll see if I can look it up quickly, but I've been playing for 22.3 hours.
Yep.
And there's more stuff than I would care to try and even regurgitate here, because it would take up all the time in terms of like main quests, side quests, factions, the living world, and it feels alive. And that's why when I look at other games that come out, even if they come out in EA, well, that's their choice. That's fine. It's up to you. You make that decision. I would challenge them and say, have you ever played Skyrim? Because if I was putting a dev team together, I would say, right, we're making, I don't know, a space game or whatever, post-apocalyptic zombie, it doesn't matter. First thing you're all going to do is you get a paid week off and you'll go and play Skyrim. Right? And then we come back here in a week. You've had a nice little vacation week. Maybe you didn't really enjoy the game. You don't, you're not forced to just play what you're enjoying and see if it draws you in. But when you come back, we can all talk about that shared experience, and we can talk about what we might want to extrapolate from that and plug into our own product kind of thing. So again, not in a copycat kind of make Skyrim 2 or whatever, but in a, you can translate or take a lot of the core idea and mechanics, but basically the feeling of an interconnected living world is what every game, at least of that ilk, should kind of, that's got a sort of RPG element to it. Every game should be aspiring to that. Did I mention I quite like Skyrim? It's made quite a good first impression.
So here's one question for you.
Yep.
Have you been made aware that Skyrim never runs out of side quests?
Not maybe exactly in those words, but definitely in a roundabout way.
So
people have made it clear where they said that the side quest is the game.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
You can keep side questing till the end of time.
Right.
They regenerate, or rather, they are generative. As in, the game will generate side quests for you. And that's the dangerous part of that game. Because there are some completionists out there that will go, okay, I need to complete all the side quests, I need all these things, I need to hop in here, I need to do that. And then they just kind of keep going and going and going. And before you know it, you've played the game for 12 years, and there's still more stuff to do. And we all know just how easily you are side quested. So I thought I'd just actually mention that mechanic to you before you keep picking up side quests yeah.
I gotta be honest, like I have recognized, and I think it's the first time ever. It is the first time ever. I actually have a degree of trepidation of the genuine, like low level concern.
Yeah.
It's not stressing me, but I have a genuine degree of concern that I could lose myself in Skyrim. Like it could, because it's so easy to play. It's so immersive.
Mm-hmm.
And as you were saying as well, alluding to, there's so much to do and just lose yourself in. Or you literally like passers-by walk up to you in the town and go, blah blah blah, it's a nice day today, isn't it? Oh, that reminds me, I lost my watering can a week ago and I haven't been able to water my flowers in all of this hot weather. Could you go and get my watering can? You're almost, then you've got a side quest to go and get someone's watering can, and all you were doing was walking through the town trying to hand in another quest.
Yep.
And before you just by being like polite, or the game just, and I kind of like it, because some of it is like it's up to you to go and talk to someone and you're like, no, that looks like a side quest, I'm not talking to you, no. And then other ones, they just come up to you and go, oh, you're the guy that saved so and so the other day, and it's yeah, and
it's
I
the
think
classic Bethesda method.
Yeah, I think it's just brilliant how they've managed that, and I definitely, like, my all-time favorite game I've ever played so far is, or story game at least, is Red Dead Redemption 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is like being in an interactive movie. You feel like you're part of a movie, or part of a real world or point in time that happened. I don't know about Skyrim, it's too early yet, but I've got a suspicion that Skyrim will become my all-time favorite. Like, this is how you can build a world and make it feel alive. It feels like I'm playing D&D when I'm playing it, and that's kind of one of the things I'm always looking for in an RPG sort of a setting. Is
do you want to hear something scary?
Yeah.
So there is a multiplayer mod that allows us to go on quests as a party.
Mm-hmm.
We could literally have a D&D party in Skyrim. We can have the tank. We can have the healer. We can have the wizard, or the whatever we want to have. We can have those. And I would absolutely love doing that. It would be so much fun.
Yeah.
So
I definitely see that at some point in my. I've got to try and work out. I don't know if I can even work it out. I don't know if it's something I could even plan for. But like, how far am I going to get like through the main story? Because I'd like to get through that and then see what else I can do with Skyrim. But I also now already have the feeling of like, but might not be through this like this time next year. like no joke. It's the first time where I've thought I don't know how long I need to get through this, because there's just so much to do. So anyway, Skyrim, 2 thumbs up from the dwarf.
Definitely. And so many other people out there give it a thumbs up. So if you haven't played Skyrim, maybe you should consider it.
I know, it was poor Mari. She came in, she's like, oh, I'm really enjoying this, but I've been told I must play Skyrim too, so I have to leave. I can't trust myself to lurk because I'll spoil it for myself. Yeah. So good luck, Mari.
I'm okay. I'm a bit brain rotty right now because it's so warm in my office, but I can't open the door because of the noises. However, we're gonna push on here. We have some quickfire news from the gaming world that I looked up just before we did this. One, the Stardew Valley developer has made a promise, and that promise is that any DLC or update that comes out will never ever carry an additional charge.
Cool.
You pay for the game, that's it. And I love that. Stardew Valley is a one-man team, I think, much like Bannerlords and a few other titles out there these days, and it's great. I think it's fabulous. Speaking of updates, No Man's Sky has hit another big update. Have you looked into it?
I have played just a smidge
Yep.
of No Man's Sky. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know if this is an accurate number. I'll need to look it up somewhere. Or chat or whatever. You can chat. Listeners, you can correct me happily. But I read somewhere that this is something like the 30th big free update they've done.
Yep.
Since the game first came out. And I first picked this game up. I've always glanced at it and thought this kind of looks like it would be cool, but I don't know, something I'm not quite sure. It's had a bad history and whatever. I don't know if I had time to fit something else in if I'm not 100% sure about it, or it isn't being heavily recommended. And then at some point, somehow, somewhere, it went on sale and picked it up. I think my mods were like, "Oh, this is a really fun game. We play this," and I was like, "Okay." All right, I'll have a look then. So, and it was really fun, but, and it was popular. It's got good engagement, but I was like, something was missing. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it was like the feeling of immersion, or it felt like a huge, big, beautiful to look at universe, but it was like walking around a museum or looking at some paintings or whatever. It's fine for a while, and it's cool, and you get some nice, inspiring kind of imagery and whatever. But then after a while, you're like, oh, okay, my feet are sore. I need to go and sit down and have a hot dog or whatever. I've done enough. I've done the museum today, kind of thing. And so I kind of walked away from it thinking, all right, this is pretty cool, but what's the point? What do you do? So I haven't played it since. So I didn't realize this, but I hadn't played it for 2.25 years roughly.
Wow, is that long?
May 22. I can't believe how much time flew by, man. But May 22, so even going full-time streaming, we talk about how we don't have enough time to play all the games we want.
Yep.
And I remember you laughing and saying, because I was like, I'll finally have enough time to play everything. And you're like, no, you won't.
No, you won't.
And it's funny.
I remember that conversation.
Yeah, it's such a good, fun conversation. That realization. And they just did update 5. And I was almost like, I looked at it and I thought 5.0, okay. Well, they did their 4.0 and all the other things in between. I was like, but there's something struck me, like just the imagery and looking at the update and that. So I had a quick look at the trailer and I was like, oh, okay, that could be, you never know with these trailers, because one thing Hello Games does really well, apart from all these free updates and everything, they also make really amazing, stunning looking trailers. And games that have stunning trailers, it can be 50-50. You can go either way. It can be that the game is brilliant. It can also be that it's got an amazing trailer team and video team, and the game itself not so much. But anyway, and then bloody that troublemaker guy that I know, that guy called Cringer, started playing it. Before the drops, before the expedition, he just was like, oh, I'll have a look at this today. I don't know what else to play. So after stream, I went over there and had a look, and it was like, and then he started showing me the water stuff they'd done and the thrusters and the reflections and floating planets, and and he was showing me it in game, and I was like, oh, so basically that really, really awesome immersive looking trailer is now actually just the game.
Yep.
Which again, to be fair to Hello Games, they don't strike me, and my experience, they're not one of those teams that does a big cinematic thing, but it doesn't really work like that. It's usually very genuine. They film stuff in game. So I was like, oh god, okay, we need to have a look at this. And honestly, Tiger, I've got just a little bit of a No Man's Sky addiction kicked in, because it's I only had about 100 hours in it or something over several months. We got it in a Christmas sale or something, I think, and then played till about May on and off. And the game has gone to a completely new level. It's hard to, people are like, man, I don't really see it. It still looks like the same old game and everything. It's kind of like, it is the same game, but imagine playing that same game in a living environment, a universe that feels alive and very vibrant and different than it ever used to before, because they added all this volumetric stuff, and it applies all over the place. It's not just a few clouds and then you get down to the planet and you don't see it. It's like the poison gases from flowers. It's the smoke in the space station we go around. They've revamped and redesigned the space station, so a lot of them don't look. They have similar layouts, but they don't look the same anymore. Different colors and just everywhere that they could make some touches and bring life into the scene, into the what you're looking at on the screen. That's what they've done, and I'm so very impressed again for a free update. It's and the game's like only 40 gig. It's, you know, it's still quite sizable, but you know, when you look at some others AAA games than that, and you're like, and they're double or triple or more the size of that, and you're like, you're not really delivering much content compared to this. I think that, you know, they added a lot more to the building parts and everything. So I would say that okay, so here's the gag, I guess. Here's the deliberate pun. They took their space game and they added atmosphere.
I see what you did there. Yeah, no, they truly did step up. Like they got massively criticized in the start. But I truly do believe they honestly had that as a vision. They had that as a thought, and that was their goal to reach. Now they've reached that goal and surpassed it.
Yeah.
And then some. Like they just needed that extra time. But they were probably being pushed by publishers and whatnot to say, okay, we need to get this game out here now.
Yeah.
But now they have the fleets. You have the giant super cruisers or whatever you want to call them. You have your own
the freighters,
stations, like all of these things that they wanted to have from the start.
Yeah.
But now it truly is there.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like they, So I might.
Another little cool thing, just because you mentioned the freighters, the super cruisers. This is what gets me to see that how much they care, that this is still a passion project. So there's two things I want to quickly mention, and then obviously we can move on. But one is they brought in a couple of years ago when I was playing. One of the things that brought me in was they added base building. Surprise, and got my spider senses tingling. But on top of that, they added freighters. And with the freighters, you could have frigates and things that you could call in and whatever. And we got the Normandy one and everything's super cool. But they added the ability to build a base on your freighter as well. So you could make so you could make your planting rooms, your storage rooms, your whatevers, right? And it was pretty cool. It was a little bit like you go down this corridor and then left at the fire extinguisher and right over, and you could get a bit lost on your ship in the first iteration. One thing I didn't expect, and I'm really, really so pleasantly, positively impressed and surprised by them, is that this update also they brought in, or I don't know if it was exactly this update, people can correct me again if I'm wrong, but in one of the updates in the last 2 years, put it that way, they also updated that feature that was brand new only, a couple of years ago. They added they've redesigned all of the components that go in the spaceship so that it's much easier to fit things together. It's much easier to understand how the pieces connect and whatever. And they added teleporters in so you can teleport to your ship and back to the bridge of your freighter without going through lots of corridors and getting lost and all that kind of thing.
Oh, very nice.
And they made the scale bigger and everything. So basically, what I'm trying to say there is not only are they going, oh, here's some new features we're adding in, but they're also like, oh, by the way, we've retrofitted it on all these other cool new features we put in like 2 years ago. So that's, and then they've added all new building parts, and it's just, I'm so impressed that they would go, here, not just some new features, but here's also, it's a little bit like, I suppose, with World of Warships, and this is a little bit of a loose one, but like, where they were like, here's a new line of ships. Oh, but also we've gone back and we've retouched up all the artwork and fixed all the ships, like the cruisers and the destroyers now hang in the water where they should. And it's like those things where you're like, you didn't need to update that. But you care about it, and it enhances the product, so you've done it, and that's what Hello Games is doing. And the very last thing is, a lot of the volumetrics and all that kind of technology they just brought in is stuff that they're designing and building for the new game, Light No Fire, which is an amazing game title, by the way, for me who sets fire to things all the time. But I don't know if you've ever seen the trailer for Light No Fire, but it's absolutely off the chart. It's gorgeous. And they're taking the new technology from what they're working on there, and then they're just retrofitting it back into No Man's Sky as well. So talk about a developer who's like, passionate and not giving up on their big thing that they've done. It's not like they've gone, oh, we've got this new game now, so good luck. We'll add a wallpaper here and there or whatever. They're like, oh no, when we've got cool new things and we can technically do it, you're going to get that new stuff in the old game too. And again, I can't say enough how impressed and positive that is.
They deserve the kudos. They really do. Yeah. They really do. And honestly, they've stepped up and deserved that kudos a long time, but they keep proving it. So I am now less afraid of buying into a new Hello Games title, to put it like that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, yeah.
Something else that makes me less afraid is I mentioned Hooded Horse earlier. And so Hooded Horse, the CEO of Hooded Horse, has actively spoken out in defense of developers who faced a lot of, game developers who faced a lot of, not criticism, but pushback for them not wanting to try to do this whole treadmill push for, we need to make content, we need to hit a certain date, we need to keep on pushing, keep on making, keep on rah, 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 always that insane grind.
Yeah.
Which it truly is. It is a grind to try to make further things for a game. Hooded Horse recently came out and said, no, we don't need to do that. We need to let developers do their thing in a pace that is valid and proper for said developer. We need to let them have breathing space. We need to let them be humans. They're not a machine. They're not a robot that just can keep on pushing out parts. It is they are actually people that need time off. They need to have their space. They need to have their space to be able to do things creatively in a good way. And Hooded Horse actively stepped up in a long conversation on LinkedIn, of all the places, to do that, where certain people spoke out and kind of said, oh, developers need to be blah blah blah. So, fuck off. And Hooded Horse keep proving themselves as pretty much what I'd call a defender of the more down to earth way of doing things as developers and game developers, and I think that's why some of these titles that we see from Hooded Horse, not only some, quite a lot of them, have that fun factor, they have that feeling of genuine product, if that makes sense. And and hopefully that also says a signal effect through the rest of the business.
Yep.
And another large developer and publisher in this business is Ubisoft, or Ubisoft, all depending on how you want to say it. They I don't know the reasoning behind it or why they're doing it. The skeptic in me says it's for profit and that they want to try to do something. But Ubisoft are overhauling the old Assassin's Creed titles, Black Flag being among them. And I'm both afraid and skeptical, but I'm also slightly hopeful. Like there is a slight hope in me that they're doing this to be able to just give longevity to these fabulous games that are still being played so many hours to this day. So yeah, that's some good news from the gaming community.
Cool.
And as developers create their stuff, so must content creators create our stuff, or something. That didn't make sense. Much like AdSense makes no sense.
Yes, very much so.
What the hell? What?
Yeah, I don't know. So, as a fledgling YouTuber who's just started up a channel like a little while ago, but didn't really put a lot into it at first, and then I decided, you know what, let's try and give this thing a go. And I definitely haven't understood the algorithms yet, but that's on me. I got to the point where it's like you can start the monetization process, which is great. And it's like, well, 69% goes to the pledge, meaning 69% of my content creation income goes to charities. And if we can get YouTube fired up and running, a few euros here, a few euros there, every little helps. So let's go for it. So we start building up and we're slowly getting there. And if you're listening to this and you haven't subscribed yet, why haven't you subscribed yet? Help me out. Anyway, it got to the point where it's like, okay, you'll need to sign up to Adsense because that's how all the payment stuff works and everything. So I open up an Adsense account and you go through a little straightforward sign up process. And it's like, well, where do you live and your address and your name, all that kind of good stuff. All the things that we've done for Twitch previously and been monetized on Twitch now for like, whatever, 4 or 5 years since affiliate and everything. In fact, even managed to get a second account to affiliate on there as well. And like no problems whatsoever, and tax reports and all the rest of it all done. YouTube has these like 2 different teams, like the creator support team and then the AdSense unit behind it or whatever. And then there's Google above it as well, and it's all convoluted and confusing. But you have to go through AdSense, and so I did the account setup, and then you need to provide proof of identification. So it's like, and these things are always a bit scary, like when you have to give someone some weird blob on the internet your passport and all that kind of thing. But whatever. Got to do it, otherwise you can't go through the process. So I give them the passport, they come back rejected and it says, no, it's all dark and the edge is missing or whatever. So I do it again and they're like, no, you didn't get this exact edge here, we can't see the edge of the document. So I was like, okay, fine. So I scanned it in again, very clear, cleaned it up and everything, sent it in, and then they came back and said, no, the passport, the ID you provided for verification is from an invalid country. And I'm like,
what?
The UK is many things, but typically speaking, in the Western world standings, not invalid, right? It does a lot of bad things, a lot of dodgy things around the world. But in this particular niche here that we're talking about, so I thought, okay, that's obviously just a mistake that their bots made or whatever. So I uploaded it again. It comes back a few hours later, rejected because it's an invalid country. So and also they make you nervous because they're like, if you fail the application process too many times, like 4 or 5 times, they're like, oh, that's it, you're just blocked or whatever. So I was like, oh god, this is going to go horribly wrong, and this is going to be quite important like source of additional income going forward. So if I, as I get into more years of this, so I sent a support ticket in to AdSense. And it's like, you can go through all the bot things and use the chat windows and all that. And I was like, nah, I'll just send an email, old school. So I sent an email and it takes you through a little like, is it this category? And what's your problem? Describe your problem. So I did that. And it came back saying, oh, it looks like you're having problems receiving payments. But it gives me a whole load of like, click here to read about our policies. Click here to ask more, to look at the FAQ for the payment issues. I'm like, I'm not having, how has my passport being rejected multiple times got anything to do with it, right? So I'd order also in between, I'd double check their website to see what are the list of valid countries. And sure enough, I funnily enough listed under Europe region, it's got United Kingdom listed there. So I'm like, okay, it's not me being a dummy. So because I'm thinking, well, I'm an expat living in Germany, is that the problem, whatever? And it's like, well, it's got nothing to do with it, it seems, right? So I send it off again. So I sent them another support ticket, and then the support ticket people got back to me after about 3 days, and they said, oh, we're very sorry to hear that you're having these problems, blah, blah, blah. However, it looks like you need to talk to YouTube's creator support team rather than the AdSense support, right? Even though it's an AdSense process. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. So I emailed the YouTube's creator support thinking, if they send me back to AdSense, because it's an AdSense thing, I'm going to be so miffed, right? So I emailed the YouTube support, and the response I got was like, sorry to hear you're having trouble with your verifying your identity, blah, blah, blah. And then they go through like, this is the kind of ID we're asking for and all that. It's like, you haven't looked into my actual case, because It's such a simple problem. Here's my UK passport.
Mm.
UK is listed as a valid country. You're rejecting my verification? Question mark, right? That's and they've sent really long, like, not, I don't think it's like, it probably is a bit copy pasta, but it's like whatever. And then there's a bit in the middle. I'll read it here. Just a heads up for you. For your ID to be accepted, the name on it needs to perfectly match your AdSense account name. Right? Again, I wouldn't be able to have the account without whatever. And then why is the YouTube creator support helping me with my AdSense account? Anyway, the issuing country for your ID also has to be the same as the one listed in AdSense. Otherwise, it will not be accepted. So I was like, what? I don't. And then it's like, you can use your passport as ID, blah, blah, blah. So I've gone back to them now with a very simple, just trying to simplify it and drill down into it and said, look, thank you for your detailed response. But regarding your statement, does this mean that a UK citizen living as an expat overseas in Germany where I reside and pay taxes, I'm not able to use my UK citizenship and passport for verification? Because if that's the case, then it would seem I'm not viable for monetization on YouTube, and I can effectively cease content creation there for business purposes. Just to try and make it like really clear, are you saying I basically can't monetize with YouTube? Right? We're not talking some Mickey Mouse like website that somebody runs on a Friday afternoon. We're talking about Google and YouTube. Anyway, I just thought I wanted to have a little rant. I needed to So if anybody out there has got similar, I don't know if you've had similar dealings with YouTube or whatever, but how is it so easy? I want to give kudos to Twitch here as well. How is it so easy with Twitch and Amazon, right? It couldn't really have been. I mean, it's a bit annoying with some documents and whatever, but that's just paperwork. That's just annoying because I hate paperwork, right? But it's, as a process, dead easy. And how can you can YouTube, right? And they want to be competing and like, oh, we're the other big players and all the rest of it. We're bigger in this regard and so forth. How can that be so convoluted that they've got 3 or 4 different divisions and you've got to get exactly the right one to deal with an issue that from a naming point of view looks like it's something to do with something else?
Yeah, no, I've been through that process. Mine was thankfully very straightforward. Then again, that was before they changed monetization on YouTube, and I then lost my rights to monetize my own channel again. So you know, there was that part. But I do have AdSense, and yes, no, it doesn't make any sense. I didn't like. I understand that they have a company that runs their ads and to get the impressions and to know about all the numbers and everything. But how is it that, like you said, Twitch is able to do this under one name in one place? I don't know. It could be a company policy for Google, for all I care. It's making it very hard for the users to do anything good with it. So yeah,
it's just crazy because it's like supposed to be like, look, it's open for everyone, and you know, I want to be global and all the rest of it. And then you realize, like, when you just by looking at a list of allowed countries and all the rest of it, you start realizing, okay, it isn't really, you know, like all things aren't. They're not as transparent and open as everything professes to be, despite all of their signaling. But it just seems bizarre to me. Like, you know, thankfully I'm not reliant on YouTube monetization or whatever, because if I was, it's already stressful enough just having to deal with this weird process. But imagine if you were like fully dependent on something like this. It's kind of shocking. But anyway, that's what that is. I hope that they'll get it sorted out. And if anybody's got any funny experiences or whatever, let me know. I would appreciate the cathartic sharing of sad stories of woe with AdSense.
We would love to hear your nonsensical stories.
Yeah, save us.
And speaking of saving us, you posted a thing here that only says "Save our clips, Twitch."
Yeah,
and I have to say I'm confused. Is Twitch not saving your clips?
No. Okay, so, well, kind of, yes. Here's the thing. They just changed. I haven't actually got the change article up, but I saw it on one of those really good Gary Busey X posts. They've changed, I believe. I believe it's fully done, but I need to look it up. So apologies, I don't have all the facts in front of me.
Hold on. Do you mean Zach Busey?
Yeah.
Gary Busey, somebody completely different. I want to point out.
Oh, okay. So whichever one was in Predator 2, that guy.
I was confused. Is Gary Busey on Twitch now? What the hell? Okay,
yeah, he's really clued up on. He knows all the cons. He's got all the lowdown. He's met Dan Clancy. That was a good one. There you go. So anyway, one of the Busey brothers posted.
I don't think they're related, but okay.
I was like, what are you confused about that? I was like, oh, okay. Now as soon as you said Garrett, the names, I was like, oh, I see what I did there.
Yes, go on. Sorry.
But no, it's good. Basically, now on Twitch, presumably to save on storage and processing costs on their end, makes sense. They've changed the clipping process so that when you make a clip on Twitch, you now have to actually actively press a save button at the end of the process. And if you don't, the clip's gone. So I just wanted to bring it up because listeners might not be fully aware of that, or caught the news bulletin or whatever. But make sure that you save your clips because there are clips and they help us to grow our channel and remember fond memories and do little highlight videos and stuff like that. Clipping's a real fun and integral part of the experience. And many people have experienced the moment but forget to clip quite often. So just thought I'd throw that one out there. So remember to make clips that are funny moments and remember to save them. And the good side as well is, I was talking to Stats a little bit about it. Now all those ones where somebody accidentally makes a clip because they slip with the button, or they make a clip because they're like, what did he say a minute ago? And it's not funny or worth saving, but they just want to recap. So they make a clip to go over a point they just missed. And now all of those excess clips everywhere and all those, millions of petabytes of storage no longer need to be paid for, I guess, by Twitch. So, I think that's a good change overall, but I think as usual, the communication could be a little bit better because people might not know. They're basically putting it on us to remind our communities and our viewers to save their clips.
I want to say, though, as someone who has to actively have a label on top of my pause screen because I play some clips then, there are so many people that clip that screen because it's a very clippable moment for a fucking reason. But it's like, please don't clip this screen. And I go in and I see fucking clips of that screen. I'm like, no, delete. And how many times I've gone through my own clips and be like, what is this? Delete. What is that? Delete. Because a lot of people use them as instant replays. Please don't do that. Use the fucking VOD. just don't. And because I can't explain just how clunky the whole clip part and the clip handling part is for us streamers. It is not a good UI. It's not a good system. So maybe by starting this process where it's suddenly being like you actively have to choose to save it, I'm looking forward to this. But yeah, no, it's a good reminder to users. Remember to click save these days. It's recently been rolled out. I'm not sure it's hit all the streamers yet, but it should be coming out to everyone shortly. So there's that. Yeah,
sorry, just a little aside because I nearly forgot about this one. I only just saw it this morning. But you can now also create portrait clips too, so the vertical ones.
Oh, that's been a while.
Oh, okay. So I only just saw it this morning. So
yeah, no, that's been a long time. I know I've actually mentioned that on the podcast sometime.
Okay.
We were talking a bit about vertical.
Not the ones where we could share the clip afterwards. This is actually while they make the clip.
You can choose to make it a vertical clip instantly. So
moving forward,
us.
There'll be a portrait version of every clip you or your viewers create.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's new.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
For those who do vertical short content. Short,
There you go.
short. What's it called? Short attention span content? No.
Probably yeah, shorts.
Short form content, I think it's called. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. Speaking of being short form, know your role. I now realize that my logo is doing its thing while that is happening. I might need to change that. Anyway, it's fine. Suddenly, Atlas. And someone who's in short form is Pete. Will Pete be showing up?
Pete will be showing up. I went through a lot of deliberation on it, back and forth after the end of last season, where I went off down a rabbit hole in my thinking about all the things I would have to do and what I would have to create and consider for a reunion, and then returning and describing that all to people. And it took me quite a while to get my head around it. And thankfully I did. I came out the other end of the rabbit hole with sort of my ideas and what I want to do. I did consider very seriously coming back as a different character, even one of the other brothers. Maybe even doing something a bit piratey, but like in the silliest possible way. But we've got such a goodly crew with the Sunshine group that we have that it's really hard not to just slip back into the character of Pete. He's, quite popular and has a lot of contacts in the community. So I just thought, you know what, we'll just keep it simple. We'll go with that. And if it doesn't feel like it's working, then I can change it up afterwards. So yeah, Pete's going to be back. The season launches next Monday, 29th of July. I will be on Wednesday, so possibly get on and deliver, create my character and rock up on an island somewhere to meet up with other characters beforehand, or if I have time and energy. But yeah, looking forward to some surprise Atlas. Wasn't expecting anything all of a sudden. Not super stoked that it's in the middle of like the heatwave summer, because that's going to make role playing for 10, 12 hours kind of interesting. But
hear me out. Mm-hmm. How about not role playing for 10 to 12 hours? What? Did you hear that? That was weird. That was weird noise.
Didn't make any sense.
Weird digital.
Whatever you said there.
Weird digital glitch there. Yeah. Is weird. No. So after last season, there were a lot of people not very happy about how certain things were being done. Not by DarkSide. I want to point that out. This criticism is not on DarkSide. It's never been on DarkSide. This has always been on the owners and developers of Atlas for how they behave and do things. What has changed? Why are we looking at 6.1 now suddenly?
So what's changed is not a lot of the above, but DarkSide made an active decision to downscale both the sort of map and the grid and everything, but also the amount of development that they do. So they wanted to go with more little iterative nudges forward with some of their mod content, whilst and then therefore relying, I guess, even more so on the game just not bringing something in that breaks everything all at once. But minimal testing, minimal development and change, smaller scale, and going fully whitelisted and just making it like, look, those who really love this and want to role play, die hard, Darksiders, whatever, come on in. Let's just go and have some fun. And if it breaks, it breaks, kind of thing. Yeah. So they've taken away a lot of the cost of the massive grid of servers they used to run before, and that is scaling down to 5x5. And yeah, just a bit of simplification of some of the rule sets, PvP zone in the middle of the map, and the rest of it is more like, more relaxed. And yeah, we're going to see. I don't know, honestly, how it's going to, we'll dive in there and it maybe just doesn't quite fit for some reason, or, the changes are just not enough to keep people engaged. Or it could be like, yay, we're back in Atlas roleplay again, let's go. And and people are there for months. So I don't know exactly, obviously, and we can't predict it. But we're going to dive in there. I've spoken to some of the crew. We've got our little Discord running. We've got a couple of... I'm very excited, actually. We've got a couple of people joining back up with us again, some of whom haven't been with us for years. They have in other ways and in the community, but just not in Atlas RP. So I'm super excited about that.
Interesting.
Probably with new characters rather than returning characters, but one of them will be a returning popular character as well. So yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a little shake up because a couple of people have just left to do other things, or some people might, health wise not be able to, but I'm glad to report that a couple of the people who might not have been able to make it for health reasons looks like they will be able to. They're going to make the effort in that. I don't like the way that sounded, but you know what I mean. I mean that in a compassionate way. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. We've got, let's see, about 17 people still hanging out on that Discord. I think maybe one of them at least is maybe not. Two of them are not active. So about 15 people we might have. I would say it'll probably slim down to about 12 or so by the time we get going. But to say that that Discord has suddenly got a new lease of life and everyone's suddenly buzzing on there and picking up where they left off and all the ideas and the relationships and sharing pictures of burgers today for some reason. It's, yeah, you could say that people are a little bit excited about some Atlas RP. It's funny because we all pretty much have the same very low opinion of the game, but DarkSide just has that little sprinkle of magic. It just... Atlas, because of that multi-grid thing, that scale, it just allows so many people to jump in and just flex their muscles around the clock, and I think that's I'm looking forward to it. So
wonderful.
Watch out for Skinny Pete.
Yeah, Skinny Pete. He's on the beat. There you go. You can use that theme. It's fine. You can have that. It's
yeah.
I will claim no royalties.
Tell that to YouTube. They slap a copyright on anything. Oh, you blew your nose on stream? Oh, that sounds exactly like the middle eight.
Oh yeah.
Of Nothing Else Matters. So
oh God.
Demonetized. Go.
Yeah.
Not that I'm annoyed with YouTube right now or anything.
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't be annoyed with some of the platforms we're on, because some of the platforms we're on are making things difficult for us. And whereas they provide a platform, we provide the content. Yeah, this sounds familiar. I don't know why. It's as if we've been through this before. Yeah. But yes, speaking of things that are familiar, we do have some familiar faces in the audience that have asked us questions. There are two questions I think I'm going to combine here today. And we're going to start with those because it's a big question. It's from TCFreer and from Diurach, because I think these two blend together well. TC asks, what sort of advice would you give regarding dealing with burnout or lack of direction? And Diurach says, an odd one. Sort of a question, but a thing I'm tackling too. How do you find/look for balance in the modern world between time in digital spaces and time in real world? And then he says, for me, I work at least 8 hours a day, sat at my PC, then I might game for the evening, and realize that I'm at 12 plus hours sat at the PC, so then I'm trying to work out how I prioritize time for things and disconnect. And then he says, tell me a written question, go burr, because my excuse is that you rushed me, he says to me, because I wrote in the Discord as he was typing, record your hack. Excellent questions, both of them. I can't speak. It's so warm in my office right now. Excellent questions. And I do have some experience with burnout. real life burnout, not just content creation burnout or such. Which, oddly enough, is what started me on the journey of content creation. In 2016, I hit the proverbial wall, this burnout wall, because I was working in an environment I was not happy with. I was working many hours in an environment that just physically made me tired, and it just completely wore me down. And the way I dealt with that, and back then I also used to kind of, I sat on my PC, I worked at a PC, and then I got home and I gamed. But the way I dealt with that was I completely changed my direction. And it's going to sound really harsh for some content creators or other people in general, that sometimes you just need to kill your darlings. In the fact that let's make it a bit more granular. You know, as a content creator, you might focus on one thing. Let's say one game. If you are no longer having fun and you're no longer finding enjoyment in that journey, in that content you're making, you need to change that content. I did that in the way that I went away from working at the PC to rather using it creatively. I used it for many hours a day, so I was still at the PC, but the way I used it completely changed. I got to sit down and be creative. I got to use a completely different part of my brain, and it saved me. Like, I got to sit down and say, what do I want to do? What do I want to explore? And instead of looking at routing tables for firewalls and endless hours of content logs and solving tickets and so on, I sat down and said, I want to learn how to create videos. I want to learn how to record and whatnot. And I got to do that. And in the same sense, I think if you're stuck in a content creation pattern or not feeling that anymore, maybe either walking away from the PC completely or learning an actual applicable skill, like something that'll help you propel yourself professionally, might be where you need to go with this. I don't know, but that's how I did things. Like, I completely turned things, and I know others that have gone completely, just say, you know what, I'm done with computers, throw them away, I'm living off the grid. A bit harsh for some, but yeah, that's at least how I do that. But as for the balance, it's hard. I guess it's kind of just up to the head of noticing that, yeah, I have been at the PC for 8 hours and this many hours. And I think, Grumbles, you have a very good solution to that, or at least you try to stick to that, where you have your working week where you stream 5 or 6 days. Mm-hmm. And then you have one day where you try to be completely disconnected digitally as much as you can. Mm-hmm. And then you have one day where you do creative stuff, like creating YouTube videos or this podcast that we do once a month. But I also know you take a lot of breaks on that day, so you are more away from it. And yeah. What's your thoughts here?
Well, I've found I've had to implement some of those sort of procedures to, just like taking 2-hour breaks as well in my normal sessions. Just get up, move about, get the blood flowing, and just stop staring at the screen, stare out the window, you know, do the 20-20-20 thing. So like the two sort of topics, like burnout is something that I went through as well. From my working career, I started at 16 and I just worked and did about 25 years in various roles and things, with a little like freestyle thing I did on my own, renovating houses in the middle, and also had small little jobs to make ends meet in between as well, like driving random vans full of dangerous things in the back of them to laboratories and whatever they wanted me to do, basically. Unfortunately, I've got a sort of all or nothing kind of personality when it comes to things like that. So I can then also be very hard on myself when it's like, why am I not doing all of the things of this? Why is this not done? So I overworked myself, which when I was younger and very healthy, very fit and active, was very hugely beneficial in a sort of lucrative sense, because we used to, believe it or not, back in the day, get paid overtime. There was such a thing. So, you know, I could kind of, you know, like add a third to my salary or something just by doing the stupid hours. But I was having fun doing what I was doing too. So it kind of, you know, it worked in both senses. And then when I was younger, also, what was the answer to hardworking was hard partying. So I would go out and drink a lot and have a lot of partying. So, and then, again, you can only do that for so long in your life, typically, before it starts to wreak havoc on you. So, but because I worked in IT as part of the financial sector, always must point out that I was never a banker, even though I do know some, and they can be annoying. We went through the financial crash and all that, and around that time, where companies were being made insolvent, things were, you know, going under, other companies were being like forced merged with each other and all sorts of stuff. And without going into any of the politics and the rights and wrongs of bailouts and stuff like that, because I got that would be another 5-hour podcast all on its own, my thoughts and experiences with that. But as an individual working within the machine, it was a torrid time, because you suddenly were thrown together, or in our case, two companies of equal kind of mass thrown together, and like, you know, this is how it's going to work. Effectively, everybody just fighting for their lives and worried that they weren't going to have their job each day, because there was 2 of you in every single position, you know, or sometimes 10 of you, and that kind of thing. So it was, one of the solutions was also everybody just worked real hard. Yeah. So I remember at one point I'd worked up something like 268, I think it was, days of overtime. 268 days on top of my working allotment for the year or whatever. And the company put a cutoff that was quite short, just ahead. Oh, and it's like, and if you don't use it by then, tough luck. We're not paying you for them or anything. And so I kind of lost most of that. And that was one of the things that, without realizing it at the time, sent me off a little bit down this rabbit hole of of burnout, because I was exhausted. I just wore myself out doing everything I could, feeling like one of those people that was just being a good, honest, hard worker, trying to do a good job to help keep everybody else employed and safe, and, you know, working together. And you feel like a family when you're in these teams. And I used to run teams in different locations and stuff. And it takes such a huge toll when you take that responsibility seriously. And you're worried because everybody's coming to you with their own concerns, and, you know, you have to deal with life. Just throws weird things at everyone all the time. And then when you're running a team and you've got like a sort of, you know, when you have compassion in the way you do things, it's just really hard. Like, you're dealing even with like people's life circumstances, their health, their family, deaths in families, or, you know, all sorts of things. And it was just way more of a strain than I thought, because also the system around me, all the senior managers and everyone else in the whole org was in the same kind of like fighting for their positions. And And unfortunately, as is human nature, a lot of people look out for themselves, more than each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went down this horrible spiral of like overworking myself to the extreme, and also psychologically, like, why can't we make things better? Why are, and then you get into the thing of being cynical and seeing money being wasted, and like, hang on a minute, you can't fire that 30-person unit over there and at the same time splash out on this stupid piece of software that doesn't work, or and it's so those things that you get caught up in as well, in these big corporations or whatever size corporations. And so the long and the short of it was, the one bit of advice I would try and give is not really a solution to burnout, but I wish I had realized sooner, even though I was actively working on it, but I wish I had stopped, and become aware of myself and the situation, because I was so busy being in it that I didn't stop and have that self-awareness and take on board the whispers from loved ones and people around me. I took them on board, but I didn't take them seriously enough, and I just got to a point where I ended up kind of with apathy of just like, all right, well, I can't do anything here. There's not, you're all just idiots and you're making bad decisions, and which may have been right in some cases, but a lot of the time was just because I was in a really bad mental state without realizing kind of how I got there, or how to, and let alone how to get out of it. So as far as burnout, if you feel it, if you recognize some of the symptoms, or you're suspicious of it, or just worried about it, or just looking out for your future, I think one of the key things to learn in life is about self-awareness and having these little Zen moments, or whatever you want to call them, where you just stop and you just calm yourself, just calm your breathing, calm your mind, maybe close your eyes, try and put yourself in a quiet room or something, and just breathe. And it sounds like so silly, but it's so simple but so effective. Just maybe look up some breathing techniques or something. I'm not going to name any or whatever. There's nothing that I specifically do like that, but just taking a moment to close your eyes and try to put things into perspective, even if they're quite bad. There's always hope, and there's always a way out of something, or a way to, there's things you can change, even if it is, like Tiger said, kill your darlings, or whatever you have to do. There's always a decision or an action you can take, almost always, barring really bad health, sick circumstance or whatever. But then the choices are like, well, let's laugh and joke about it, let's find a way through it with humor or something else.
There's one thing that I think is maybe the most important lesson to be held, or not lesson, but thought to keep in mind when it comes to working in a corporate structure, or any sort of large corporation or business and so on, is they are using you as a resource. You are not a human to them. You need to take care of yourself. So work to live, not the other way around. Do not live to work. It is incredibly important. Something that I do believe we're very good with a lot of places here in Norway is that when the day is over, the day is over. You walk out of there, you don't work overtime just to finish that one task. You don't do extra stuff unless it's very, very, very needed. Like, the business will be okay if you do not finish this task until tomorrow morning. It's fine. You'll be fine. And I think a lot of Americans will probably feel hit by this, and it's that whole, don't, like, the company that is almost predatory in its way of making you feel like you have to be there. Know your hours. Know how much you're getting paid. And it's gonna be easier for me to sit here in Norway and say this, but if if that job is not showing you some sort of responsibility of taking care of you, because as much as you are a resource, you are a resource. They need to take care of you. They need to make sure that you get the hours off and that you have a good work-life balance. Like, that is incredibly important. But it's also on you to pick up that and enforce that. Your boundaries are important. So the boundary here, I guess I'm trying to enforce, is make sure that you live your life. You enjoy what you have around you, instead of, oh, I need to do this so that I get to work early enough and blah blah blah. You know, just
yeah.
Maybe even go as far as saying just do the bare minimum. Some people need to hear that. Honestly, it's not gonna go for everybody. I want to point that out, but some people need to hear it's fine with the bare minimum. It's fine. You don't always have to give 100%. In fact, that's impossible.
Yeah, it's really complicated topic.
It is huge.
In terms of the balance and the getting away from the computer and all that, I would say that my own rating for myself on that is that I kind of suck at it, even though I do try to. I don't believe that I believe in and I act on the words that I say about taking breaks and everything. Do I take as many breaks as I probably would benefit from? No. But what I do try to ensure is that I'm at least getting satisfaction and some kind of mental reprieve and enjoyment out of what I'm doing. So where doing creative stuff is more fun, but I am conscious of the fact that it can also work like a job sometimes as well, or it kind of technically is my job, but anyway. What I would say though is that and what I would wish, what I want to work on, and what I would wish I would do more of is the outside world is such a strange thing, especially with everything we've been through with COVID. It's just or more to do with how authorities and governments reacted and behaved during the COVID, without getting into that whole rabbit hole. But it's made it a lot weirder to be like, it's normalized certain things and made access to certain things online, which is a good thing. But it's also those conveniences sometimes work against us, because it's like, well, if I could just do this all online, why even bother going out to the shop, or when I can have something delivered or whatever, I think that it's incredibly dangerous and detrimental, what we've kind of come up with in many ways, all on the guise of convenience. I think we've done ourselves a real disservice as a species in many ways, because yes, convenience, it feels awesome and you get all these things done and cheap price or whatever, but the cost of it is you don't do things that are natural and appropriate for us to do as a species, like going out and talking to people and touching grass, as the kids as people say on the internet. And I really genuinely, even for myself, I recognize this, I've lost so much touch with just reality in a good meaning way. It's almost scary to myself, of like, how do I not go out more? How am I not? Why don't I just go down to the park and sit on the park bench, or even when I was working and doing all the workaholic stuff or whatever, I might do like a 14-hour workday, but one, I'd get paid for that, but two, even then, at least there'd be like a lunch break. We'd go and sit in a park. Like, even in London, I managed to find a park and a park bench to go and sit at, or an old chapel or something like that. It was a bit difficult to find green spaces in the city, but at times, but and I don't know, the mixture of just the technology and the modern lives that we lead, combined with sadly the last couple of years, and how that was, in my opinion, sort of mishandled psychologically at the very least, not talking about the actual disease. but the psychology of events as they unfolded and whatnot, has done me certainly a lot of damage. And honestly, there's only one real cure. I don't know if that's the right word. There's one medicine, if you will, and that is just quite literally, I don't want to say touch grass, just find a happy place, find something, a look, a view. It could be the end of your lane, it could be a back garden, it could be a little balcony you've got to look out over, a window view you've got, or it could be a particular park that you can go to, or there's an ice cream van on a corner somewhere. But whatever it is, find something, or a couple of things, whatever, but keep it simple. And just, if it's something somewhere that you find some joy in, like some peace of mind, it just makes you smile to be there. Find that thing and cherish it, and maybe have a picture of it in front of you on your desk or whatever, and use it as a tool to say, you know what, I'm going to go and sit there for a minute. I've got 5 minutes.
I'm going to go back there.
Yeah. And then obviously the hardest part, and I'm not kidding when I say it really is the hardest part, and then go and do it. Then go and visit that spot. Whatever it takes to get you there, whatever the motivation, but find a real physical place, because everything's so many virtual things and so much sort of technological kind of crap, I would say, going on. And it can be amazing in all these worlds that we create, and I spend far too much time in it myself. But it really hit me today when I went out grocery shopping. It's just like just driving along, and there's these little fields either side, and you see some storks in a field eating some food and whatnot, getting ready for their flight home for the winter or whatever. And just whatever it is, but find those little things and just cherish them. And if you can, have a picture of them on your desk or somewhere, or digital, have your backdrop or something like that, and then make sure that you go and see them. Remember that feeling and that smile, or that piece of serenity, that peace of mind, whatever you get, whatever it is you get from it. Remember that feeling, and then go back there and get a re-up on it, re-sub to that feeling, because nothing beats real life, no matter how good the technology and the games and whatever gets there. And I know that people are working at a screen all day, and you can't change that, but there's almost always an excuse, and I feel this myself, but there's never an actual reason typically, unless you're physically hindered from doing something, or there's all sorts out there. I'm not criticizing anybody, but really honestly try, and this is what I'm preaching to myself, really try to get that moment where you can go back to that happy place, that little spot, whatever it is, that view, and do it. Just take that view in again, and have that moment of appreciation and realization of, like, I'm alive. This is it's a real thing. I exist. It's not all just on the computer. Because I think that's one of the tricks that the computer and the technology kind of brings into our minds, is it makes it feel like that's all there is, or that's the best thing there is. And it's not true. The best thing there is reality. Touching, smelling, seeing, feeling the warmth or the wind or whatever, that you can't, it's unbeatable. I don't think computers will ever beat it. Maybe with enough psychedelics, I suppose.
Well, it's a good thing you kept that short.
Yeah, sorry. I felt very passionate about the topic. It's as if
you're passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly. I've suffered a lot in my life, and a lot of it I've put on myself. And
we do that.
I can offer anything that helps people to not go through as much sorrow and feeling of disconnection from life that I've felt at times in my life, then I would like to try and get that message out there. There you go. That was chirpy. That's lifted everyone up.
Oh yeah, very much so.
I was miserable. It's not good. Don't do it.
No, but the thought of staying in touch with those moments, and maybe one last little thought on this before we move on. Not everything has to be shared online. Some of these things can be kept as your own personal little secret, your own personal little moment of enjoyment. That sunset, that sunrise, that field of weird flax that waves in the wind, snow-filled fields that have wisps of fresh snow blowing across them, whatever it is, just enjoy it for a bit, because they are fleeting, some of them, but that's what makes us human. Speaking of other things that make us human, Twitch certainly makes us feel human in the way that it throws feelings at us, and some people feel very strongly about certain new implementations. Yes, and that's Statsbloke. We're gonna bring Mari's question in last, because I think it's a fun question, and we're gonna collaborate on that one. But Statsbloke says, what do you think of the addition of power-ups, as in giant emotes, on-screen celebrations, and so on, and their placement in what used to be the channel points button? What should we now call the button? And I'm going to have Brian read out what Statsbloke calls that, because he has written on Discord and called it, what should we call the button? The
button that's indicate which usito just have the channel points in if you know west the power ups in it and by the bits not channel points and the channel point reward Sarah Steel layer underneath button
is a bit long. So what should we call the button? The button that's under chat, which used to just have the channel points in it, but now has the power-ups in it. By the way, they're bits, not channel points, and the channel points rewards are still there underneath button. Yes, it is a bit long. It is a bit winded. And on one side, I like it, but they need to make it clearer that one part is for channel points and one part is for bits. They need to kind of do that, or at least maybe after the trial is done and hopefully it is successful, allow us to give limited access to using channel points to use those. That's something I'd say, but I like the system itself. Like, I like the power-ups. I like especially the gigantifying of emotes. That is amazing. It's one of the better features they have, but I need some sort of alert that someone has done it, because there is an actual cost of bits to that, and I want to properly say thank you to people when they choose to throw bits at me. So yeah. What do you think?
I agree with your points. My suggestion, because I think it would be hilarious for all the IT people, would be to call it the power button. So that people go into chat and push your power button, turn your power button off. I think that's pretty funny, especially if you actually had a integration with one of your bots that switched your computer off when someone used 1,000,000 points or something, or 1,000 or 10,000 bits or whatever. That'd be quite funny if they actually turned your computer off. Probably in a really bad break your computer way, but whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's also funny that the channel points is called rewards in there, right? So you have a power up section and a reward section. So like even the channel points has rewards. It's like, why is that bit not called channel points? Then you know that channel points and power ups button, the power button takes you to channel points and power ups. It actually takes you to power ups and rewards. So you could call it the reward button. The whole thing seems very inconsistent, but I guess they've also factored in like what they can call it in different languages too.
Interactions button.
Yeah, I mean but that's also a clunky word. It's not, interaction's not a nice word, is it?
I don't know. I interacted with your mom last night. No, it's not.
It's not what your mom said.
Yeah, no, it's no. And then they have so many different languages they need to translate to. So
I want to call it something simple. I mean, if we called it the puddle button, that'd be quite funny.
Puddle
and relaxed
button?
and chill in English, but puddle in German is Futze. So which just sounds like a bad word, even though it's not a bad word. It'd be pretty funny. I know this is Stats' point, but not Mari's. But hopefully Mari will get a good chuckle out of that when she listens back to the recording as well. My foolish attempt to say that word. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else I would call it. Power button is my suggestion. Puddle button is my other suggestion.
Or maybe
or they could go
just
full meme and call it things and stuff.
Things and stuff.
Things.
Yeah. Or maybe they should actually split them up again and have bits be its own button and channel points be its own button again.
Well, yeah, like why is it not under the bits? If it's bits.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's beyond me. Like
I liked it when the bits was the bits.
Like you use
channel...
bits for it, so let's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
the more we think about it, the less sense it makes of what they've done.
Yeah. They've taken a lesson from Adsense.
Whoa, shots fired.
Yeah, shots fired there indeed. Anyway.
Adsense. Yeah.
There might be shots at whatever Mari is asking us about because Mari says, I was thinking about my question and my brain previously didn't spit out anything, so I'll ask a random standard question from the internet. If faced with a barbecue grill, what streamers do you invite? And who do you make the grill chef? Who do you make bring salad? Who do you make bring the barbecue goods? Who do you make bring the sauces? Who do you make take care of dessert? And who do you make or let take care of booze? She says. And I think we should collaborate on this one.
Okay.
And who do we invite of streamers? There's going to be so many. Like I think it goes without saying that most of the people that we interact with on a weekly basis would be, of course, invited.
Mm-hmm.
None named, none forgotten or ashamed or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I think if we start doing names, we're going to be annoyed later on that we didn't say this name or that name. So,
However, I want to point out there is one person that instantly popped in my mind when I saw Make the Grill Chef. Hula.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but Hula instantly popped into my head of like, he's gonna be there with his beer and he's gonna be manning the grill and just
It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah.
So I have a counter proposal. Which might be surprising. Hula is obviously there, but Hula is my drinks guy.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because he likes a good Guinness. He knows his beers, tequila, whatever. So I think he's going to look after everyone and make sure we have a good time and probably end up drinking some stuff we've never heard of or maybe only in like Westerns or, is that a real Texan thing? That kind of situation. But my grill chef that I'd recommend that I know only a little bit, but just the combination of just the energy and positivity and the cooking skills, which are like off the charts. I would have Happy Chef. I don't know if you've ever watched Happy Chef,
of course.
And I know that would make Hula happy as well because he's a big Happy Chef fan too. So I would have Happy Chef running the grill because. And we're all in for a feast. We are in for like top notch. And it's not sort of pretentious stuff. It's going to be good looking and everything, but it's going to be like, you're going to be full. You're going to enjoy this. It's going to be perfectly cooked meats and whatever. So, that's
if we're bringing encounter suggestions, well, okay. Hula might end up just being one of the guys there to just enjoy stuff. just so that's said, like I think he'd be okay with that, honestly. But for drinks, have you ever hang out with when Stats goes to Colino?
With who?
Colino. He does. He's a bartender. He does bartending stuff,
right?
And he does it well.
Okay.
Like proper mixed drinks. He knows his beer. He knows his stuff there. So, but I think it might have to be a collaborative effort where you have somebody in charge of the spirits, but then you have somebody in charge of the beer.
Yeah.
And
sounds appropriate.
And I do know who knows his beer stuff, and we're not just talking generic American horrible brand.
Oh no.
He knows the stuff. So yeah, I think we'll make it a collaborative effort there on that one.
I like that.
Now, we have our chef, we have our bartenders, so to speak. Now, we need someone to make and bring the salad. We need someone to bring the meats, the barbecue goods, and the sauces, and the dessert. I think for salads, oh, I had a name in my brain, but it disappeared.
Not like these.
Oh God, it's completely gone.
Not like these.
Okay, whatever. Let's move on to the meats for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's your meat guy or girl?
So I don't really know that many like meat people per se. But in the Twitch space, I do know a couple of guys who are very, very keen on meat and meat being done right. Good quality meat, and you know, they don't mind cooking it up and stuff. Actually, I just thought I know a third person as well. So the two guys I thought of first of all, because they've even had a cook-off, like a live stream cook-off where like they're in their respective places, but they're live streaming together, and you know, and that is Firebane that we know through Atlas and everything, and Fist of the Walrus. And Fist is really like when his games aren't working or his internet's funky or whatever, he just fires up like meat streams, like cooking and tenderizing and all this kind of butchering and stuff. And he's just like, and occasionally he does his own streams where it's like, we've got a big slab of meat and we're gonna cook it. Let's go. So I know that people that are passionate, that really do all the marinating and tenderizing, whatever, I don't even know all the terms, but basically just the equivalent of a Twitch butcher or whatever. So those are two guys, and the third guy that I just thought of actually, that I think would obviously be very popular there as well, is actually Gassy Mexican. He does very occasionally does his own cooking streams and that, and when you've seen him like handle trays of like, he does like chicken and turkeys, and also he does like loads and loads of stuff, bringing in some obviously Mexican and different influences as well. So that could be interesting if you've got someone if you're just talking about doing the marinades and the preparation of the meat and everything. I think those would be some really good candidates for the meat guy.
Yeah.
Or gal, you know, we mean guy
Yeah.
whatever sense.
Yeah, I can be on board with it. Yeah, actually, that as you mentioned, I was like, yeah, Gassy, yeah.
You know, Gassy's gonna do a good job, like at a party in general, and and just keeping everyone entertained and whatnot as well. So it could be a good.
Definitely. Where did I hide it? There it is. All right. Okay. Sauces. Who's our sauce guy?
I'm not sure about sauces, to be honest. I might, yeah.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
So one of my mods, he is very big into hot sauces.
Okay.
And we're talking everything from like a mild, slightly hot ketchup to the super hot stuff that gets shown on Hot Ones.
Okay, yeah.
I think he's our sauce guy.
Sounds good.
And Frank, I don't know if you're listening, but you're our sauce guy now. That's how simple it is. I know there are streamers out there that do hot sauce. I think there's a channel I've always tried to catch, but they stream on like in the middle of the night for me, so I don't really see much, but I do see stories from them, and it's making their own hot sauce from scratch, looking good. But I can't properly name them until I've been in on a stream and actually seen everything. I'm sorry about that, but yeah. So as for salads, do we have any salad aficionados? Like,
I don't really do rabbit food, so it's not an area that I have any expertise in.
I know Stats is fond of a good salad and kind of mixes together stuff, and even tried growing his own at some point.
Okay. Well,
but is he our salad guy? Like,
it could be. It could be. Stats, you're on cabbage duty. Don't worry, even if I'm not eating any, I'll just pop by with a drink and say hello.
Okay, knowing since it's Mari asking the question, I will point out to anyone in the Midwest of the US, no, we're not talking your weird kind of macaroni salads or whatever those weird things are that you call salads. No, stop it. Bad. Put it down.
Actual vegetables.
Yeah. Dessert. Where are we at with dessert?
Dessert? I have two options. One is a I haven't sampled it myself, but I've seen the creations and they're pretty impressive. There is a streamer friend of Hula's called Kelly Cakes.
Oh yeah.
And she just makes cakes.
Yeah.
But she makes it's kind of like if I went in for like 4-hour session to build a nice building in Conan, she does that but with cakes. She just like builds something incredible. So she can do all sorts of things. She runs it as a business and then just live streams some of the things that she's creating for it. So that would be pretty impressive if we wanted cakes. And the other one that may be more of a surprise pick, but I don't know if dessert, I think dessert, but is I got a lot of respect and time for our elders, as it were. And I've always had like the whole like grandpas and grandmas kind of generation. Probably because of my upbringing where I've had to spend a lot of time with them because parents were just, not parenting very well and stuff like that. And so I think that life experience and having just been around for a long time, which is a positive in this sense, can lead to a mixture of both, I know a really good thing, and also I've experienced everything. So of the 100 different desserts I've had, these are the 3 you want to go with kind of thing at a barbecue. So I would maybe slightly surprise pick, but I would go with Grams, Miss Crochet, who made my my Kraken. She's not a cooking streamer or anything like that, but she makes really delicious food, and it's all as cooked by grandma kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
Like this is the traditional way. We've been making this food for 80 years, and this is exactly how my mama's mama used to make it like this. And you don't need to perfect it or fix it or put modern BS ingredients in because it's just perfect the way it is, kind of. A little bit like when I used to go to some old work friends and there was an Italian family that we worked with, and when you go to their house and have tiramisu, right, or lasagna, or insert whatever, pasta dish here, it was a different thing. It's hard to describe, but it was just a different thing to saying, even going to a nice restaurant and having an Italian meal, high quality, lovely, but you go to a family where it's like, we've been making this like this for like 100 years and we know exactly how to tweak it and, all the herbs and spices and whatever. And it's just different. If you know kind of thing. And so I would go, that was my pick there because I'm going on with the experience and also I think there's something for the you're older. As you get older, you learn, and I can speak to this to an extent at my age. You learn to a degree not to mess around. as much. And it doesn't mean being stubborn or whatever. I guess maybe it does. But you learn, like, if it's an important, like, we're doing this big barbecue and we've got everyone together and it's a rarity and it's the first time we've had all these people there and everything, it's got to be, like, super special but super fun for everyone. Then that's when you get someone with experience like that and they go, oh, then I'm making this. I'm making, like, a rhubarb crumble or something.
Yeah.
And you just know it'll be spot on, off the charts, good. And everyone will enjoy it and all the rest of it, because and it'll be a perfect wrap up, you know, that'll be the literally the cherry on top kind of thing for the day, for the event. So yeah,
I'm gonna throw my own name into the hat for desserts. One, I make a mean cheesecake.
oh
2, I'm good with baked goods such as sweet buns, anything that has to do with like what are they called? Pastry doughs, you know, like the stuff that kind of does the rise up. So I know my way around the kitchen when it comes to these things. And so I'll at least offer to help. I will put that out there. I've done some confectionery stuff previously.
nice.
So yeah, I will offer to help with the desserts. You know what? Screw it. I'll offer to help with the salads too.
Not the salads.
But it'll have a lot of bacon in it. I want to point that out.
Sounds like a good salad already.
Right. So yeah, as for I don't think we can name anyone specifically that we want to invite, but I think most people, like, if money wasn't an option, or a thing that we needed to care about, and we had enough space, I think we would go ham. We would make one hell of a party.
Yep.
Or more like a 7 days to dine.
You know what would be really good, Tiger, is it would link back to the other point from TC and Diurach, or points, because we'd all be enjoying some reality.
Yeah.
And
No
real
streaming
food and
allowed.
no computers, no phones. Imagine that. I'd love to do that. I'd love to say, look, you can't, I'm sorry, but you leave your phone at the front door. Here's an emergency number to an old hardline in the house. Or, you know.
Yeah.
And that is, so if something goes wrong, everybody's got their contacts that have got this emergency number. Otherwise, no phones, no tablets, nothing. And
Maybe
like,
hire like a professional photographer or something.
I was going to say
to do
exactly
that.
the same thing. Yeah. So that nobody's faffing around with a camera instead of enjoying the moment.
Just be there. Just enjoy. Yeah, no, I like that idea.
Give it 2 hours and everyone would be like, could we just use the Xbox for a bit? You know, we could play Mario Party.
I mean, of course, we'll have games, but no streaming, no living your life through the lens of your phone or whatever. No, and we'll have games by all means. Jesus Christ, we're not
fun employed with physical cards.
Oh yes, maybe a live play, one shot with the features from Know Your Role and such. I think that could be. Good.
Big box full of cosplay hats.
Oh yes.
Just hats, so no one has to feel uncomfortable. Just a hat.
Yeah, like scenes from a hat, scenes in a hat.
Yeah.
Whatever. But that quickly leads us down to something to smile about, because that would certainly be something to smile about. Honestly, let's be fair. And I'm gonna go first. My something to smile about is very simple, very straightforward. This morning when I woke up, the throne link or wish that I had set up on Live from the North and my own channel to have a new pan tilt zoom cam bought for Live from the North has been fully funded. So I've started the process of fixing that now. Every morning now for the last few days, while Mari is here, I've woken up to my water bottle being in the fridge and ready to go, with stuff in it to make it taste very tasty. Everything from these cold steep teas to just some lemon or whatever. Just very good. And lastly, Northern Norway has been absolutely bathed in sun for a while now. We're probably going to see a few days of gray, but it's been a full week now of just constant sun, and it's been amazing. And we're actually able to do stuff outside for the second year in a row, and I'm loving it. It's way too warm for me, but I am loving it. So those are my very simple, very straightforward some things to smile about. But that is not to detract from another very big something to smile about.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite member of the community that long time does a lot of shenanigans has pulled out a massive charity.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so my something to smile about was just being able to both, give encouragement beforehand, but also, raid into and enjoy, hang out, have fun with Mr. Diurach while he was doing, I think he said it was his first, or at least first in a long time, but I think first official charity stream, and he was kind of nervous about it, but they reached out to him from F Cancer, and he came to me and he was like, I think you've worked with them, right? Are they any good, and how's that go and everything? So we had a little bit of back and forth on that, and I just said, go for it. I think you'll do wonderful. And he was worried about if he had enough incentives or, do a good job. All the things that we put ourselves through extra stress and put ourselves through the mill on, because we want it to be a success, and we're so passionate about it in the community. And he just knocked it out of the park. We may have tickled the little donate button there on behalf of the pledge, but a whole bunch of other people had done too, in lots of different sums, because every single penny counts. And it was just wonderful to see, and it was nice to have the mixture of Diurach. He was playing some ships, so he was doing ship things and Colberts and Austins, and I got to pick those two ships for him to play some rounds in. And it was just nice to see plot armor was in full swing, and everyone in chat embracing that fully and enjoying it. And the mixture of Diurach go Bert when exciting panicky things happen and plot armor kicks in, and then that into twined with moments of just flabbergasted, I don't know what to say right now, because donations came in and he shot past his goal and everything. So it was lovely to see. It was a fun stream, and kudos to Diurach for going through that kind of stress and first ever charity stream kind of barrier, because it is a mental barrier, psychological barrier. And kudos for raising all those funds and that additional awareness for F Cancer. So let's go. First of many, I hope.
First of many, indeed. It's a good cause. It's a good human being, even though he tries to say that he's not. Mm-hmm. I will strongly argue that, or against that, I should say. Mm-hmm. Because he's good people. That's how simple it is. Speaking of good people, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Exit to Port. It's been a long one, especially in this heat. Mm-hmm. And hopefully more people will be able to join us on Patreon so that we can fill up our coffers. No, that's not why we do that. It's simply to help with the hosting costs. So if you feel like you enjoy this and you want to ensure having your comment or question in, and maybe even some upcoming Patreon exclusives, please do head on over to Exit to Port, patreon.com/Exit to Port. and consider pledging $2 a month for that. But
Yeah,
without
and another big sincere thank you for those that do support us already.
Yes.
It makes a huge difference.
Mari and Finn are current ones. I checked right before the recording, so there shouldn't be any new ones. And let me double check now. No, still them. So if you're not pledging there, what's wrong with you? No, I want to point that out. Like it's not a requirement, but it does help the thought of going forward with this, because I'm not exactly a rich man these days. Anyway, who knows if we'll get a sponsor? Who knows if we'll meet some sort of massive deal at some point? It would be nice, because that way we could spread our message to a larger audience and to maybe on a bigger platform. I don't know. But without further ado, without any further thought, it's going to be goodbye from me. And goodbye from Grumbles.
Bye!
And we'll see you in the next one.